Welcome to the Health Channel, all health, all the time. I'm Kathy Buccio, coming to you from the Baptist Health South Florida studios. Joining us today is Fred Stock, the President and CEO of the Jewish Community Services of South Florida, as well as Christina Lalama, the Director of the PACT program, and Richard Schutz, the Helpline Manager, all at the Jewish Community Services of South Florida. Welcome to the show. It's such a pleasure to have you all here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And a great topic. So let's start with you, Fred. Why don't you begin by telling us about the Jewish Community Services of South Florida? Because I hear it's going to be celebrating a birthday soon.
Yes, we are. In 2020, JCS will be celebrating its 100th year anniversary,
Wow.
providing services to this community. And so it's been a long run, and we're very proud of having been able to do that over all these years. JCS is a unique agency because we provide services to different people, many different kinds of people, from the age of 2 to the age of 102.
Wow.
And those services involve many different types of programs. And part of what makes us special is our capacity. And without our funders and the organizations that support us, such as the Greater Miami Jewish Federation, such as United Way, the Children's Trust and South Florida Behavioral Health Network, we couldn't do what we do. I know that the program today is mostly on mental health, but the truth is we serve many different populations in many programs. So for example, we have a variety of senior programs, and we work with individuals who are over 65 who live in the community in a variety of programs, from food programs. We do home delivered meals and congregate meals. We provide mental health counseling services, case management services. So it's an array of services. We also provide home health care services to people. And the goal of those services with seniors is to allow for seniors to age in place with dignity.
Right.
That's our mission.
And with a quality of life, absolutely.
And with a quality of life. And if you look at what we do, whether it's in services to seniors or in services to families and children and adults in our mental health services, we're always trying to do the same thing. And Christina will be talking with you a little bit about some of the work we do in mental health. So I like to say that we have a simple mission, and it's based on a Hebrew expression called tikkun olam. Tikkun olam literally means repairing the world. That's our goal, to work with organizations in the community, with our funding partners, with our universities, with other agencies in the community.
Now, can anyone take advantage of these programs, Fred, or is it?
So,
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
In other words, our services are open to the entire Dade County community. We do not discriminate based on race, ethnicity, religion, or sexual identification. Everyone is eligible for services, and our services are based on someone's ability to pay. No one is denied services because they can't afford them.
Right.
So we're here for the entire community, and the community that struggles to make ends meet and struggles to keep a roof on their shoulder, and we provide services to that community as well.
That's wonderful. Now, one of your recently acquired services is the 211 switchboard. So for those who might not be familiar, Richard, could you explain the 211 hotline?
Yeah, so pretty much the 211 hotline is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365 hotline that's available for information and referral services and also crisis counseling.
Okay.
So anyone, no matter what their background, they're needing some sort of help in their life, whether they need food, they need shelter, they need to find a therapist because they're feeling depressed, or whether they're suicidal in the moment and just needing someone to talk to, they can call those 3 numbers, 211, and someone will answer. It's confidential, it's non-judgmental, it's something that we would really encourage anyone to call if they're finding themselves in a situation where they don't know where to turn to. So with the 211 line, even though Jewish Community Services has taken over that line from what used to be Switchboard of Miami a couple of years ago, it's been a service that has been in the community for a while now. And it is here, we do cover Miami-Dade County and also Monroe County as well with that service. But if you name it, or even if someone at home is listening right now and are thinking of themselves what do I do tomorrow? Because I'm behind on my rent. I don't know where I'm gonna turn to. Or
There's hope.
There's options out there, and someone will be there 24/7 to be able to answer that phone call to
That's
explore
incredible.
that with them.
How did the JCS acquire the hotline?
Thank you for asking, Kathy. So a little around 2 years ago, JCS was actually approached. I was approached by a board member of that organization who reached out to me because the agency was in danger of closing.
Right.
It had
Wow.
run into some financial difficulties, and so we were asked whether or not we would be in a position to take that agency over. So this was in September of 2016. I'm happy to say that we received tremendous support from the funders of 211 because they understood that this is a valuable resource and it needs to be here.
Absolutely.
We can't let it go away. And so all of our funders got behind this and was able to support the transfer of the funds to be able to continue the service. JCS met with all the funders. We met with the leadership of United Way, of the Children's Trust in South Florida Behavioral Health Network in order to accomplish this. And we did receive the support that we needed. And JCS actually lent the organization close to $400,000
Wow.
in order to keep it
Because
afloat.
this is needed.
It is. It's as Richard said, so many people don't know where to turn.
Right.
And so we really want to stress that when you call 211, you can get access to the services you need, and you can get access to crisis counselors who can help you deal whether it's depression or anxiety or suicidal thoughts, that resource is there.
Absolutely. Now, I want to take a look at some examples of behavioral health services. And can you talk to us about each of these and their purpose, especially in the community, starting with counseling?
So for the counseling program, one of the wonderful things about JCS, as Fred mentioned, is that we do service everyone from pretty much newborn all the way through advanced age. So we do have that capacity to see people of all ages. What we do tend to see is a lot of families and a lot of young children. Children because they are having difficulties in school or having difficulties with behavior, so parents tend to bring them in. We do have a variety of adult services as well. When adults come in for services, they are usually struggling with something in life, much like what Fred and Richard have already talked about, difficulties with their finances or with their daily ins and outs. Right. We also, in addition to those services, counseling services, whether it be individual or family, we also offer support groups.
So important.
We have absolutely support groups for example, youth with LGBT issues, other kinds of situations like parents whose children have been sexually abused, and also just groups where people have run into difficulties, maybe tripping on the line of crossing into having being arrested or something. Have also different kinds of groups that they can come into, and those groups are not only support groups but also psychoeducational groups where they can learn
From
to
one
improve their
another.
skills. Exactly.
Okay.
And learn from other people in the community. One thing we learned that's fabulous about group settings is that people feel alone a lot of times when they come in for those.
They think
for that
you're
help.
the only one going through this. There's no one
Exactly.
else like me.
Yes, and there's a level of shame and embarrassment with
Absolutely.
that, and so that usually prevents people from coming in for services. So having a group format for them is wonderful because they see there are other people going through very similar things that they're going through.
I want to touch on the last two on that graphic, one of them being prevention and intervention and the importance of family counseling.
Yes.
Can we talk about that, Christina?
Sure. So with the prevention and intervention, we recognize that there are lots of warning signs. Much like with 211, people are calling in when they are at that point
Yes.
of feeling desperate and feeling that they
So cry
cannot
for help.
get something. So what we like to do is recognize the warning signs ahead of time and provide services to people, the community or those that come into our services, so that they recognize those signs and symptoms and are able to go forward and get assistance. So through that, we do connect a lot with our public school system, going out into the community, talking to them about healthy relationships, about sexual violence and community violence, about reporting things when they see something that's suspicious. Even with adults, talking to them about if they suspect child abuse or elder abuse, about calling that abuse hotline and what that would entail once they do that. And so it's really to let them know that they do have some element of control in those situations that are very difficult.
Right. I hear you mention that they can come in, and when you say they come into one of your centers, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because they're spread all over South Florida?
All over South Florida. So we have two offices in South Dade, an office in North Dade, and an office on Miami Beach
Okay.
that provide direct services. What Christina is alluding to is the need to work with other entities in the community. So for example, we are in over 60 public schools providing services directly to students. Most recently, we received a grant from the Children's Trust, which we're implementing
Such a great
now.
organization.
Great organization that is going to focus on Head Start programs here in Miami-Dade County and helping the teachers to recognize issues around emotional problems or emotional disturbance, and working with the teachers in identifying those children, and then working with the children and parents to get them involved in the services that they need in order to prevent problems from getting worse. Right. What we have learned is if we don't deal with these issues when the children are young, they're only going to get worse.
Correct.
And they're going to cost way more money to deal with in the future than they do now, and the system is already strapped with a lack of financial resources.
Start that young. Now, a good approach can lead to better outcomes, and I want to go through different aspects of your services at JCS, starting with defining goals. So can you talk about why this is so important with behavioral health, defining goals?
Well, when we define the goals, we help not only the client, but also the clinician to identify what the problem is and what we're going to focus on.
Okay.
And once we decide that, it makes the treatment that much more focused for that person. Also eliminates costly overhead, like going over and really, spending too much time in treatment. A lot of clients don't want to be in treatment for a year. They want to be in there for a shorter amount of time.
Right.
And so we work with that to get them to achieve their goals in a short amount of time as possible.
And that in turn turns to building those communication skills and reducing conflict. In what way, Christina?
Well, what they usually do is they understand exactly what they're coming in for.
Okay.
And so also the clinician understands and communicates with them very, very clearly what they're going to get out of the services. And their expectations then are set in a realistic manner. They know they're not going to come out cured in just a couple of weeks. They know that they need to work on it, and they need to put their part. Correct.
Right.
They are the main motivator to
Right.
get themselves through this situation.
And in saying that in turn helps to manage that worry and that stress, which I think is the underlying in a lot of these issues, correct?
Correct. Yeah. That is correct.
Now, coming up, we will talk about behavioral health needs during the holidays and why demand is high and what resources are available for you. You're watching the Health Channel, all health all the time on South Florida PBS. If you have a question for any of our experts, please call in using the toll-free number 855-796-4475. And please be sure to visit our website, allhealthtv.com, where you can watch a live stream of the Health Channel and watch videos from previous episodes. We'll be right back.
Listen, you're my friend.
I noticed you haven't really been yourself recently.
Yeah, I feel like something's up.
How are you?
Are you okay?
Is there anything you want to talk about?
I just want to know how you're feeling.
And listen, even if you don't know what to say, I'm here to talk.
No matter what you're going through,
I just want you to know I'm here.
I've got your back.
when you want to talk, I'm here.
One in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. That means it could be you, your dog walker,
On your left!
your cat jogger. With early diagnosis, pre-diabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
A brain aneurysm doesn't care that you have important meetings. It doesn't care that you have to drop your daughter off at ballet and your son off at soccer practice. So if you suddenly experience the worst headache of your life, sharp pain behind your eye, and blurry vision, seek immediate emergency care. The Lisa Calagrassi Foundation, shedding light on brain aneurysms. Learn more at lisafoundation.org.
C stands for cutting-edge research, clinical trials, and collaboration. Creating breakthrough treatments as Florida's only member of the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Alliance. At Miami Cancer Institute, C also stands for CURE, world-class cancer care right here at home. Learn more at miamicancerinstitute.com.
Welcome back to the Health Channel, all health, all the time. I'm Kathy Buccio, and with us is Fred Stock, the president and CEO of the Jewish Community Services of South Florida, as well as Christina Lalama, the director of the PACT program, and Richard Schutz, the helpline manager, all at the Jewish Community Services of South Florida. We want to know your questions, so please call in using the toll-free number 855-796-4475. We'd love to hear from you. Now, while the holidays bring festivities and joy, they can also bring unwanted stress and memories. So, when temporary, some people might call that the holiday blues. And according to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, up to 64% of people experience holiday blues. Okay, so what are the holiday blues, or what causes the holiday blues?
Well, it's just a time of year, we generally think about, and you watch commercials on TV and you see a lot of happiness, people gathering, making memories. But for a lot of families, it's also a very stressful time. Those memories for them might be very difficult or painful ones. Maybe they are recalling the loss of someone in their family, or maybe they are going through something where their festivities may not be as festive as other people are. So seeing everybody else around them being happy and celebrating might make them remember more regularly or on a daily basis that they are in a bad situation. So it's easy, or it's very common for someone to fall into that holiday blues. In addition to the stressors that people have with providing gifts for everyone, or the celebrations, or the alcohol, all different, a lot of different factors can add up into that to contribute to the holiday.
And it always feels like the holidays are supposed to be joyous and fun, just like commercials.
Yes.
And then the reality is that they also bring stress.
Yes, exactly.
And holiday blues are temporary, but the signs can be real. So let's go through some examples. And Christina, if you can talk to us about these.
So along with, again, planning and going to a lot of parties, feeling that sense of obligation, there's a lot of fatigue where folks feel like they have to oblige to their families and friends and go to every single reunion that exists. Family tensions tend to surface at this time because we tend to gather, and if there is some difficulty with a family member or with other people, then you are inadvertently going to get together with those people. The frustration of not being able to maybe provide or have the holiday celebration that you envisioned, getting together or not being able to get together with people. Feelings of loneliness are very, very real for others also. Sometimes people can't get together, or they find themselves without family. If they have a good support of friends, maybe friends are with their family and they find themselves alone. And with all of that, of course, comes that increased sadness. They're also thinking about, it's a time of reminiscing. Much like New Year's, we start to set goals for the new year. Christmas time and the holidays around December all tend to focus more on what we've done and what's happened to us over the year. And so we do refocus on, if they've lost that job, or if they lost their home, if someone in their family passed away. So all of that sadness and that sense of loss can come in at this time when, again, we're supposed to be celebrating and having a joyous occasion.
So what's the difference between something that's the holiday blues, but something that doesn't go away?
Well, what we like to, and this goes back to what we mentioned earlier when we talked about recognizing signs and symptoms. Some people do have signs of depression or anxiety, and they've been having it for a long, long time, months and maybe even years. But it becomes more prominent around this time because of that added tension and stress. So it's important for us to recognize in our family and in our friends what are their normal reactions and behaviors, and what are things that are a little bit out of the norm or very out of the norm for them. And recognizing that and being able to communicate about those. That's where our intervention and prevention comes in, where we like to educate people about what they should be looking for and not being afraid to approach those subjects with their friends and family.
And Richard, I want to reaffirm that the hotlines are also, are always open, but especially so during the holiday season. I'm sure you get so many calls as well. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So especially during the holiday times, you find a lot of people that they're not with their families, or they've lost loved ones recently, and they're in a situation where they really have nobody to talk to. They don't have those options, as many of us are fortunate enough to have. So when that does happen, people can call in just to really talk about it, reminisce about the more positive times in their life, and just being able to speak to someone and not worrying about being judged, not worrying about
someone that's going to dismiss them if they're talking about something. Okay.
Absolutely. So having that available can be very preventative with things getting worse, or even if they're at the point of where they're having thoughts of suicide because they're all alone and X, Y, and Z happened in their life, they can call in and we can provide those suicide intervention skills to prevent a tragedy from happening. And with that in mind, people have different problems. There are different things that could get someone to the point of having thoughts of suicide, versus for others it might not get to that point. But we want to know that people are able to call in and know that they can call whenever it is that they need to be able to find those resources.
Such a benefit to have that hotline and as well. And now, what kind of stress do you manage during the holidays? That's very common that you see?
I think financial is one of the bigger ones, and time management are two big factors that we see. People feeling that they don't have enough time, and if they are, facing an illness or facing some other stressors, it's just going to add to that. So the financial piece, just feeling that responsibility, and again, marketing and commercials that we see, and even just going into the stores, people feel bombarded and they feel obligated to meet a certain expectation, one that is unrealistic for a lot of us. And so having that feeling and not really understanding that they can say no, not setting appropriate boundaries for themselves and for their own personal families.
But it's the feeling that comes afterwards, a feeling almost bad that you can't do this. Who am I if I can't provide a gift or during the holiday?
Exactly. And also that fear of disappointing others, especially children. Children are very, hopeful, and they have their eyes wide open during the holiday season. They're expecting gifts or they want something big and special. And if a parent or a guardian cannot provide that, it adds to that stress for them. And that stress then is going to come out through maybe increased tensions and the way they react and respond to their children. So we're going to see it in different aspects for them.
That's such a great point. Now, with holidays come festivities and parties, and the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration has some tips for creating a safer space for everyone. These are fantastic tips. And again, as you said, it's almost you walk in the door and they're handing you a drink already. So avoid making alcohol a focus.
Yes. So for people to remember that they can have fun without a drink or without heavily drinking is important for them. And everyone, again, being aware and having that mindful thinking and mindful planning about how they will celebrate, and not having to make alcohol a focus of having fun.
Unwinding without a drink, which is focus. So Fred, if you'd like to add.
That's also where friends and family come in. So it's important for friends and family, as Christina said earlier, to recognize signs of behavior that are not usual for this individual, and to not be afraid to bring those to the person's attention. In other words, to intervene in some way. And it may seem strange or counterintuitive to say this, but sometimes this represents an opportunity when these things happen during a holiday season to deal with some underlying problems and issues that may be there. Underlying issues with depression or anxiety. So it's sometimes they come out then when they wouldn't necessarily come out at during the rest of the year. So if family and friends are attuned to those kinds of changes in behavior, it could be a breakthrough for the person to actually seek help and to deal with some of those underlying issues.
Now, I want to bring up that graphic again, because for some other great options, serving non-alcoholic choices, stop serving alcohol before the event ends.
Yes, that's important to prevent or to help minimize the risk of the drinking and driving. Because people will still, the party, right until they're leaving, they are continuing to drink. And again, it could be social pressure, it could be a personal behavior that they are experiencing. But if that is stopped a little bit early, kind of like with a last call at a restaurant or at a bar, they do that and then the party can continue. They have some time to sober up or to relax before leaving, or for everyone else around them to make plans to get them transported home
Absolutely,
safely.
and with the car services, it's in this day and age, this might be another option for people to use. You know,
Yes, thank
holiday
goodness
parties
for them,
can be can get quite adventurous.
Yes.
Now, if you have someone that you are close to who is struggling or recovering, are there ways we can be supportive without being judgmental? I think that's where you get that pushback sometimes. Richard, do you see that as well?
Yeah, so many times people are worried about being judged and being looked at from that light, and that's something that could prevent them from actually getting the help. As Christina mentioned a little earlier, just the stigma of seeking for help and seeking resources out there can really prevent them from doing that. So creating an environment, a way where people can seek help, and even if it's loved ones, just to be like, you know, I care about you, I want to make sure that you get help. No matter what it is that's going on, you know, I care about you and I want to make sure that you're okay. So building that type of environment for someone is something very critical.
Space. Yeah. Now, Christina and Fred, what if you're not exactly sure if someone's struggling? You kind of think, but not really. So how do you approach a situation like that?
Well, we usually advise people to do so non-judgmentally, to ask questions, and more than anything, to express things from your point of view. To say something to that person along the lines of, I'm worried about you, versus, you know, you're really acting in this way, which of course would cause that person to
get defensive,
block and get defensive.
Absolutely.
Whereas if you approach it as, I'm worried about you, I noticed that, you know, you're not quite the same anymore, is everything okay? Checking in with that person, and not just when they are demonstrating or displaying those symptoms, but also on a regular basis. Just, you know, being a friend, being a family member means that you check in on people, make sure they're okay. And if that person has that open communication, or they feel that you are not going to judge them, they will go ahead and share with you if something is going on.
So if you can express yourself to your loved one in a way that is not accusing them of anything, is not blaming them for anything, that's what you need to try to do.
That's the importance with mental health,
Exactly.
is it, Fred?
Exactly. So you're putting the onus really on you, as saying to the person, gee, Mike, I'm really uncomfortable with the way you're behaving right now, or I'm concerned with the way you're behaving right now. Not, why the hell are you doing this? You know, it's the way you say it in a way, so you're putting an I message, I am concerned, I am worried, as opposed to you're doing something. That's the difference.
Very big difference.
And you can learn that. That's something that you can learn how to do. We teach people how to say things in a way that doesn't come across as being aggressive. And that's the key.
That's the key. Now stay with us, because when we come back, it's all about managing stress. You're watching the Health Channel, all health all the time on South Florida PBS. If you have a question, please call in using the toll-free number 855-796-4475. And please be sure to visit our website, allhealthtv.com, where you can watch a live stream of the Health Channel and watch videos from previous episodes. We'll be right back.
If you love them enough to drive an hour to cheer them on as they get beat 11-0 in the rain, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the-right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Throw that ball, Diane. Woo! You got this.
Because of you, I feel not alone in this world. And you let me know that it only takes one person to make you feel wanted.
Everyone deserves a decent place to live.
Everyone.
When a future homeowner partners with Habitat for Humanity to build or improve a home, they build a better future for themselves and their families.
For my family.
For my family.
For my family.
With a little help, we all have the potential to stand on our own.
Potential. Potential.
Potential.
Visit Habitat.org to provide help to families like these today.
Every year, millions of Americans are exposed to a contagious virus.
What is this virus? It's stigma.
Stigma promotes an environment of shame,
fear, and silence,
which prevents millions of people from seeking help.
But there's good news.
The National Alliance on Mental Illness believes stigma towards mental illness is 100% curable.
So do yourself and everyone a favor.
Go to curestigma.org and get tested for stigma.
Welcome back to the Health Channel, all health, all the time. I'm Kathy Buccio, and with us is Fred Stock, the president and CEO of the Jewish Community Services of South Florida, as well as Christina Lalama, the director of the PACT program, and Richard Schutz, the helpline manager, all at the Jewish Community Services of South Florida. If you have a question, please call in using the toll-free number. We'd love to hear from you, 855-796-4475. Now, from internal struggles to picking out the perfect gift or discussing politics, oh gosh, no, at the dinner table this holiday can be a playground for stress. And no matter the source of stress, it is important to be able to manage stress appropriately. So what are the biggest sources of stress for the holidays besides politics?
Well, as we I think touched on a little bit, one of the bigger things is financial difficulties. The whole year we're going through and we don't have any big events such as this one. And the holiday times with a lot of people coming, we start to feel obligated that we have to fulfill certain wishes and certain demands even that are placed upon us. And even visiting as we, think about traveling and going, to another state, or people coming in and visiting us, there's a lot of stress about, how is everybody going to get along? Are they going to bring up topics that I don't want to talk about, or that really are things that we shouldn't be talking about, like you mentioned politics at the table? Anything like that can bring about stress because you know that there could be some conflict, maybe not with you, but maybe with other members of your family.
Right.
And so that adds into all of that in addition to the planning, and you're still doing your daily, going to work and taking kids to school. And so all of that it's an additional stressor that a lot of people would rather be without, but we are in a holiday season, and so it's one that's difficult to avoid.
So why is it that certain people get more stressed than others? Why is it something that's built in us? Is it the way we manage stress?
So there are multiple factors that cause increased stress over the holidays. One is their living situation. Are they alone? Loneliness gets exacerbated during the holiday season because there's this expectation of having family around. If someone is prone to anxiety or prone to depression because of who they are and is not really dealing with those issues, that also gets exacerbated during the holidays.
Right.
And so it's important to sort of recognize who you are as a person and how you cope. And that's a challenge. Some people call it mindfulness in terms of how do you cope with various challenges in your life. Some people cope better for all kinds of reasons. Some people don't. So that's part of the challenge. It's important to know that there's a resource, though, that is available, our 211 and our hotlines that are there for people to talk about some of those challenges and de-stress by talking to someone, a caring individual, in privacy, in their home, that can help them to deal with it. And then not only that, but can then refer them to services that can help them on an ongoing basis.
And I love that the JCS has that. Now, mindfulness is one approach to better managing and reducing stress, especially this time of year. Dr. Beth Rush explains.
When stress comes up, it becomes that much more important to take care of yourself. Sleep, eat well, make sure you're exercising, look for signs of stress in yourself, manage your emotions, give yourself a timeout if you need to from activity or stimulation or interaction. I think we tend to think of self-care as always going out and doing something, like getting our nails done or going to the gym or eating right. But sometimes self-care has to be about pausing. And I think that's something that we're all learning is becoming more important. How to slow down. Is it okay to slow down? Are you judging yourself? Are other people judging you? What are you not accomplishing in the moment that you slow down? And if we can learn to value slowing down, we might have more time to really appreciate the active things we're trying to do. I think one of the most important things to do is to slow down, to think about what you're doing. Why are you doing it? What are you trying to accomplish? Do you like the way you're feeling as you're doing it? If you're feeling, for instance, obligated to get somebody a gift, are you acting authentically? Are you acting the way you want to? Should you maybe pause and think about the person you're buying the gift for and why? Those are the types of things we can do to kind of appreciate things, slowing down. Self-care can be as simple as being still at your desk, breathing, shutting your eyes, closing out all the other things you're thinking about, and not responding. Or it could be actively doing something for yourself, taking a walk, getting a cup of tea, treating yourself to a cookie, sitting down with your door closed in your office and doing some sit-ups. It could be a lot of different things, both active or being still.
So I like how she said that I can just be sitting here and close my eyes. So would this be an indicator to my children that mommy's having some self-care moments, right?
Yeah, depending on their age and what they're asking for,
Yes.
they may or may not follow that.
Please, exactly. Okay, but what I loved about it, and you and I kind of smirked at the same time, was it could mean something as simple as just taking a break.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So how important is these tips, these de-stressors, not just for the holidays, but for everyday life?
Absolutely. One thing we encourage our clients to do, and we encourage everyone to do really, is to take stock in themselves and to really realize and recognize what are their limits. And when you need a break, it's okay to say, I need a break.
Right.
Many people feel, again, that obligation is all year round. They feel obligated to their children, that they have to respond and be there. Someone else can maybe watch, maybe, their partner or what have you can watch the children while mommy takes a minute.
Right.
And even with students, parents need to also recognize maybe their children need a break. And so sometimes the child puts on their headphones and that's a sign to us, okay, they want to be alone. But instead, sometimes people say, take those headphones off. And so we want to recognize what is that moment for each person. And again, going back to communication, if people say to each other, when I need a break, I'm going to put on my headphones. Or when I need a break, I'm going to sit on my front porch.
Right.
Anything like that can be a mindful moment. And for us to recognize and take account into what we need, that's when we'll be able to communicate it better to others.
That's such a great tip.
I mean, the idea that you have to be all things to all people all the time is crazy.
Right.
And I think you have to give yourself permission and not blame yourself if you need some time for yourself. That gets, again, exacerbated during the holidays because of these greater expectations family and friends have of your time.
I feel that's something that I think we all go through. I know personally I go through that and currently going through that, and I had to take a minute and kind of say, stop. Yes. Like, I'm just going to fall apart if I'm booking every Christmas spectacular every single day to get that holiday moment. Yeah. And instead, what it's creating is stress and stressing everyone around me. And I think sometimes it's hard to accept that.
Yes, and learning to say no is very, very important, especially at this time of year. But if we're practicing it,
right?
Yes, exactly. If we are saying no more often and regularly, then it's something that we aren't going to feel ashamed of when we have to say no. Setting that limit is going to be important for our own self-care, and then we can also help them to take care of others.
And the other piece of that is you should say to yourself, I'm not a bad person.
Yes.
That people think they're bad.
Right.
If they're not there all the time for somebody else, for family.
Right.
And I understand, we all have those pressures.
Right.
But forgive yourself. The concept of forgiving yourself, of not blaming yourself if you're not always there for someone else.
Absolutely, and I agree with that 100%. Is this part of the tips as well to prevent some of that holiday stress, Fred? And you kind of hit the nail on the head there. And it's to be realistic, right? To, as you said, be realistic in. It's okay to say no, and it's okay to help, but if you can't, it's okay.
Right.
And these are some other ones as well. Acknowledge your feelings. Can we talk about those?
Sure. That goes, again, when we say, instead of always telling a person that what you are doing wrong, saying what you see and acknowledging how it makes you feel in that moment. If you are feeling, stressed and I'm feeling overwhelmed, I need a break, it's not a selfish moment. It's one where you are saying, I need to take care of myself, and that's okay to do. And reaching out to others through communication or just getting together with someone for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee is important. And to be able to disconnect from all the everyday, regular, crazy routine that we have is important. To reach out to someone who will be there with you and can share that moment with you. Setting realistic goals is very, very important, so that we have an understanding of what our limitations are. Along with always trying to please people, we're always going above and beyond what we normally could do.
Which is kind of goes into the stick to a budget.
Yes.
As you said, you walk into a store, you see all these great gifts you want to give everyone. Listen, maybe you can only spend $20. You're not going to go buy the $80 gift, and that's okay.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's right.
Exactly.
You don't have to feel guilty about that, or again, that you're a bad person. And it's okay that if so many people make so many demands of you during this holiday time, and demands tend to increase, it's okay to say to that person, I can't do that right now. It's going to have to wait.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with you for doing that.
Right. So if Santa can't get the Barbie dream house, but Santa can get the Barbie camper.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
I'm still a good parent,
Yes,
right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Now, this was a big one too. This plan ahead. Learn to say no, as we talked about, but don't abandon your healthy habits. Indulge, but also keep them in mind. Richard, how is this important as well? I'm sure that's another stressor that people probably call in for and just feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, absolutely. So from what we're seeing up here about preventing holiday stress, sometimes when we have these conversations with these people, we notice some of these things that maybe they are not saying no, and they're explaining about how they feel this pressure because they need to provide gifts for the entire family, or maybe because of that they're drinking excessively and having these coping mechanisms that aren't as healthy for them. So by being able to explore that, they can actually key in to notice, all right, what are those healthy habits that they have been doing, and how can they get back on track to doing what they've been doing throughout the rest of the year. So just having that in mind, and we're really not going to be telling anyone what to do when they call in, but we're trying to empower them to make the best decisions for themselves to be able to get on that right track that would be most likely
to them, right?
To be,
and I mean, that kind of ties into seeking professional help if needed. If it gets become too much, it's okay. You're not alone. Call 211. Correct?
It's okay to get help. Call 211 24/7.
And I think what happens a lot, I believe, is when you call 211 and you initially take that step. It's not easy to do that.
It's not.
And to acknowledge that I do need help, it begins a process. And that process gets them to a professional who can help them over time.
Absolutely.
And we know about those resources. That's what we do. We put people in touch with the services that they need to improve their lives.
It's about taking that first step.
Exactly.
And as Fred mentioned, we know of over 4,000 different community resources out there. So there is help out there. And then depending on what that person needs, we're able to filter that in for them.
Wonderful. Not only during the holidays, but
anytime
this
of the
is
year.
anytime during the year. Now, coming up, we're going to switch gears and talk about other services available, and some of that in the works at the Jewish Community Services of South Florida. You're watching the Health Channel, all health all the time on South Florida PBS. If you have a question, please call in using the toll-free number 855-796-4475. And please be sure to visit our website, allhealthtv.com, where you can watch a live stream of the Health Channel and watch videos from previous episodes. We'll be right back.
145 over 92.
180 over 111.
I had a heart attack, a cardiac arrest, and then a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a heart attack or stroke are far from invisible or silent. Get back on your plan, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
Meet the scan, a simple procedure whose mission is to detect lung cancer early.
I'm here to save you.
But I feel fine.
That's great, but you may still be at high risk for lung cancer.
Oh man, that's a new fence.
If you smoke, early detection could save your life. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
You can try to ignore it, but the problem is everywhere. Every instinct says don't look, but sooner or later we must, and our reaction is only natural. Mice contaminate food and transmit disease. Termites cost billions of dollars in property damage each year. And cockroaches can trigger asthma attacks and spread salmonella. Trust your instincts. Learn more about how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be?
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
If you're at risk for type 2 diabetes, it is very important to increase your physical activity. Most people need to start slow. Get motivated by doing something you enjoy. Here are 5 simple steps to get moving. Number 5, exercise while you watch TV. You can do arm or leg lifts. Simple weights or canned goods can be used. Number 4, take the stairs. Start slow. It raises your heartbeat and builds muscle strength. It also works your lungs and waistline. Number 3, go outside. The world is your gym. Explore. Do things you enjoy. Discover a new park, play catch, bike. Spending time outside raises your levels of vitamin D and puts you in a better mood. Number 2, dance around your home. It is a great form of exercise and fun. You can burn 300 calories in just 30 minutes. Number 1, walk. Do it alone or with a friend, anywhere, anytime. It is the ideal low-impact exercise. 30 minutes a day makes a big difference.
Welcome back to the Health Channel, all health, all the time. I'm Kathy Buccio, and with us is Fred Stock, the president and CEO of the Jewish Community Services of South Florida, as well as Christina Lalama, the director of the PACT program, and Richard Schutz, the helpline manager, all at the Jewish Community Services of South Florida. If you have a question, please call in using the toll-free number 855-796-4475. Now, this hour, we've been focusing on behavioral health resources for our community for the time of the year. And I wanted to talk about some other services and needs in the community. First of all, our community is certainly growing and changing. And one of the things that I really want to emphasize is the work that you do with children, because that's a huge part of the now and the future of the JCS. So can we talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So at JCS, we're increasingly spending more energy and effort and more funds in working with young children in the schools.
Yes.
In a variety of programs. Christina will talk a little bit about the work that we're doing in trauma. And because we recognize that if we don't deal with the children and we don't focus on the challenges the children are having in their personal lives, in their environment, those problems are just going to get worse.
Right.
And we all know what's happening in the schools related to violence and related to bullying.
And that's something you and I were speaking off camera. My daughter, my 6-year-old daughter, had a lockdown drill the other day and had to talk to her about it.
Right. So JCS is partnering with an organization called Sandy Hook Promise, which was a foundation that was created after the tragedy in Newton, Connecticut by the parents. And the service that they're providing is an anonymous reporting system where JCS is working with school districts all over the country to be a resource to children in the middle schools and high schools that are dealing with all kinds of issues, personal issues, whether it's bullying, whether there's sexual violence of any kind, whether there's someone in the school who has a weapon or they believe may have the potential to do harm. And so we're getting these texts and calls from kids, and we're working with the school systems and the police departments in these cities, and this is a national program. I'm also proud to say that we're implementing this particular program here in Miami-Dade's public schools beginning in January.
Fantastic.
And it's a resource that allows kids to call and text confidentially. They never have to give their name. But they can alert us to problems. Fear.
A lot of people don't. A lot of
Exactly.
kids don't speak up as well because they say, "Well, what if they find out it's me?
Yes.
Then now I'm going to get bullied, and
Exactly.
something's going to happen to me."
Exactly. And then the other area JCS is focusing a lot of energy has to do with seniors.
Right.
We're all well aware in this community that seniors have a lot of needs, both financial, emotional, and also just needs around home care and housekeeping and mental health. And there's a lack of services.
For seniors.
So United Way is leading an effort with a coalition of agencies to look at how we can increase funding for needed social services. And that's another area of advocacy that's really out there that we want to try to play a role in.
Now, I want to expand on what Fred said, Christina. If you can talk to us about the programs and how they work, especially for children dealing with trauma, because as you imagine, that trauma can follow you through life.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the programs that we have at JCS is called PACT. And I'm the director of that program. And PACT stands for Providing Adolescents and Children with Trauma-Informed Treatment. And what we do is we provide the therapy services for children ages 6 through 17 where they have experienced any kind of traumatic situation. And again, that goes back to their perspective on it. How is it impacting that child's life? The program is designed so that we can provide a trauma screening absolutely free to that child, either at their school or they can come into the office and have that screening done.
Because every program is designed differently depending on the child, depending on the trauma and how they react, correct?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. And so once that screen comes back and we give them the information, we share that with the parent and let them know, that yes, the child has some traumatic symptoms, we can go ahead and enroll them in our PACT program.
Right.
And the PACT services, and it varies, but the PACT services are absolutely free for the parent. And so the
Wow.
parent has no cost when they bring their child for the trauma service. We provide an evidence-based trauma treatment called trauma-focused cognitive behavior therapy, where we work with that family. We work primarily with the child or with the adolescent, and then we have a parent component where the parent joins in and engages with the parent.
It's really
in their
inclusive.
therapy. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Because what we recognize and what evidence has shown is that when the parent or caregiver participates and continues to utilize those skills at home, the child has a better chance of not only maintaining those healthier skills,
Right.
but also it shortens the amount of time that they can be in treatment. So it really helps a lot for that caregiver to participate and engage in that treatment as much as possible.
And Richard, quickly, do you often get middle schoolers and high schoolers calling in sometimes to the hotline?
Sometimes we get everyone that's calling in through the hotline because they're experiencing bullying. They're concerned about other people or other things, rumors that they may have heard or seen on social media. And like you mentioned, with that fear of finding out that they're the one who said something. So a lot of times people don't want to say things because they're scared it's going to come back to them. So now we're experiencing through the program that Fred mentioned, a lot of people are feeling a lot more open in those middle schools and high schools to be able to reach out and say something.
And Fred, we have a few seconds. I want you to add some last minute thoughts, please, if you can.
So I believe that JCS plays a role in this community, working with other agencies and organizations to identify emerging needs for services, and then to figure out ways to partner with organizations to meet those needs. One example of that, quickly, is we are partnering with FIU's School of Medicine to develop, to look at what are called health disparities. And our other partner actually is Baptist Health in Kendall. And this program is focusing on a number of zip codes in West Kendall and looking at how people access the health system and what role the social service system plays in that, and what are those gaps. So it's a research study, and if we can develop a model that can work to access so that people have better access, because that's always a huge issue in healthcare, we can then expand that model to the rest of Miami-Dade County. So this is an example of how organizations can work together to have an impact and to create a system that just works better.
I'm looking forward to see how that develops. That does it for us this hour, and be sure to join us next time on the Health Channel, All Health All the Time on South Florida PBS. Follow us on social media at All Health TV, #AllHealthTV, and please be sure to visit our website, allhealthtv.com, where you can watch a live stream of the Health Channel and watch videos from previous episodes. I'm Kathy Buccio. We'll see you next time.